Hi guys, this is D Evans back with another video. Today I want to talk about single mothers and how they should raise their sons to become young men. Um, we have a lot of different situations that come through our office at the high school I work at. We have married couples, the mother and the father together in there trying to get information for their son, which I really do appreciate. We have single mothers and we have single fathers. It's more single mothers than single fathers. Sometimes those particular situations can become a little bit rough around the edges because of the relationship the mother and the father might have. I just want to kind of give a few pointers just from what I've seen to kind of help mothers raise their sons to become competent young men. Mothers raise their daughters because they're women. It should be easy for a woman to teach a young woman how to be a woman because they are of the same gender. But I have noticed that mothers struggle when it comes to raising young men. And so, number one, the first thing I always tell mothers, if the father is around, which there are a lot of fathers who are around, allow the father to spend time with his son. The father can teach his son how to be less emotional, provide structure and order. He can also teach the young man how to use his hands and be handy around the house. That saves a lot of money, guys. I mean, even with myself, a lot of the things I can fix around, my place of residence, I'm sure a lot of other people probably can't, and they have to spend money. But that's one good thing about, having a father or just some positive male figure in your life that can actually teach you things. The father can also teach his son how to look people in their eyes when speaking. I like that. It represents confidence. It shows that the young man means what he says. There are a lot of men who look down, young men who look down when they speak. I tell them in my office, when they're sitting with their mothers, look at me, talk to me while you're looking at me. Don't look down. And a lot of times the mothers would interject and try to speak on behalf of the young man. I tell the mothers to let him speak because he will be a future husband, a future father, and he needs to learn at some point in his life. It's best to learn early. Right, number two, teach him how to cook, clean, and wash his own clothes. Now, this is for the mom. If dad is not in the house, teach the young man how to be domesticated. I've heard stories from women, talking about the men they're dating. They can't wash, they can't cook, they don't know how to clean. Make sure you teach the young man how to do that. To me, it prepares him for the real world. He will be able to survive anywhere and not have to depend on a woman or women to feed him. I think that's a great attribute to have. Number three, stop over-nurturing the young men. Once again, mothers, allow the young men to speak for themselves. Give them chores and responsibility. Place the young men in extracurricular activities. At school, at my current high school, we have about 50 different extracurricular activities outside of sports. I think every young man does not have to play sports, even though I know a lot of young men tend to lean towards sports. But we have a plethora of activities, organizations, the National Honor Society, Beta Club, Future Business Leaders of America, Students Against Destructive Decisions. I mean, there are a ton of activities for these young men to become a part of. I just think parents have to take the time, go to the school, meet with the counselor, or talk to the teachers, because the teachers are the sponsors of the extracurricular activities. You can also go to the school's website. Just find something to allow that young man to grow and to, learn or gain responsibility. I think with those particular organizations, they give you a role, they give you a duty, and your peers will be expecting you to perform your duty because they will depend on you to follow through with whatever your assignment is. I just think outside of sports, those extracurricular activities I just discussed, would be very helpful. Number four, expose the young man. Please, mothers, Travel with these young men. Visit museums, historical sites. They need culture. A lot of the young men I talk to have not ventured outside of their town, their city, their state. Once again, I always say these are future husbands and future fathers. They would not be able to teach their kids or just the family anything, and I think women lose respect for men like that. And I hate that because the young men, a lot of them haven't been prepared, and they end up losing respect because of, their lack of preparedness, growing up. I just think, that's something that the father would probably teach the young man. And so that's why I always say, mothers, let that young man's father be in his life. There's a lot of things that father can teach him. Number 5, emphasize the importance of education. A lot of young men struggle with communication. I always tell my parents to teach them to text and write and complete sentences at all time. A lot of young men hesitate to speak. A lot of young men kind of stutter when they speak. They look down. Once again, they look down. I'm always talking about them looking down because I have young men in my office who can bench press 400 pounds, but when they walk in the office and have to express themselves, you just see the confidence just seep. It leaves them when they have to actually look at me and speak to me in complete sentences. So please, make sure they text and write in complete sentences. Talk about college. Talk about vocational school. You can also talk about them getting a CDL license. They need to learn about different routes they can take in order to be successful. Because what you want to do, you want to prepare your son to become a man, once again, a future husband and a future father. So these different routes or these different ways to gain knowledge, to gain a certificate in order to actually go out and make a decent salary would be very important in these young men developing and becoming what they want to be once they become full-grown men. Like I said, a lot of young men don't know what they want to do when we have advisement sessions. We normally have junior and senior advisement, and during that advisement session, we ask them, okay, so what do you want to do when you graduate? Where do you plan on going? College, vocational school? Do you plan on just going to work, military? And a lot of them can't tell me anything. So that's why I say, parents, please, start exposing your kids, your sons. Take them to colleges. You can take them to vocational colleges. Just travel with them so they can see what's out here in the world. I think that would help broaden the horizon, within itself. And so, last but not least, one thing I noticed, and it's been like this for at least over 20 years, it has become uncool to be smart in school. And I see that a lot with the young men. A lot of them downplay their intelligence. So please, encourage them, let them know it's okay to be smart. I try to tell them it's cool to be smart. But if you can emphasize it at home, I think that would be, half the battle, and we can try to fight the other half while they're at school. But other than that, thank you guys for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully, I may do a part 2 to this because there's a lot I can talk about. I just try to narrow it down with 5 things. I could really list about 20 things on here that, can help parents when it comes to raising young men. We want them to become competent adults because, like I said, these young men are the backbone of the family structure. And let's make sure we let them know that. Thank you.